What's up, fam? It's Calla from Recalibrate here with episode 3 of the Lightin Up Podcast. On today's episode, we have Rachel, who is a midwife here in Phoenix, Arizona. She has helped birth hundreds of babies at home, helped women take their power back. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about what is midwifery, why has birth been weaponized and hijacked, what does that have to do with MK Ultra, what is birth like? What is a hospital birth like versus a home birth? We get a little bit into ultrasounds. We talk about taking your power back, and we finish by getting into the CoCo shot and quantum physics and our beliefs around that. So this is a really potent and powerful episode. There's a lot of information in here. And before we get into it, I just want to preface this episode by saying that I know Rachel and I both agree that the most important thing in this life or in true sovereignty is everyone doing what is best for them. So, there's nothing inherently. Well, I won't say that. What I will say is everyone has to do what's best for them. And sometimes that will be a hospital birth. Sometimes that will be a home birth. Sometimes it will be something in between. And whatever your birth is beautiful. And it is your birth. It is your baby's birth. It is a perfect part of the story. So this episode can be triggering. There is a lot of truth in here. What we know to be true, but again, everyone's truth is different and everyone's expression and path is uniquely beautiful and uniquely perfect. So please know that, we truly align with sovereignty, and if we truly believe in sovereignty, it is the power to do what is best for each of us and to make informed decisions in choosing what is best for you. So we hold space for all births, for all expressions, for all women, for all beings here on this podcast. And, especially in this particular one, we never want anyone to feel shame or bad about what they have done or experienced. So rather, we offer this information in hopes of helping you maybe see things differently or think about things differently or feel empowered in doing whatever it is that is best for you. So again, it is really about doing what is best for you, taking care of yourself, your family, and this is just another perspective for you to consider in your life. So thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited. Let's grab a candle, maybe some sage, palo santo, sweetgrass, incense, whatever sort of smoke or light or candle that you've got laying around your house, and let's lighten up together. What's up, fam? It's Calla from Recalibrate, here to lighten up with my friend Rachel, who is a midwife, a laughing yoga instructor, and a just total badass. So before we get started, let's find a candle, maybe some sage or palo santo, a joint, whatever you want, and let's lighten up together. So before we get started, if you just want to take a few deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. We'll do it together. So let's go in through our nose. We'll do that 2 more times. As I light this candle, I just call upon the Great Spirit and our higher selves to be with us today and allow Rachel and I to communicate clearly and accurate and concisely the messages that we need to know to help lighten up the whole world, and especially today with a focus on women and mothers and children.
And all things be in service to our highest and best. I welcome any fae, ancestors well. Thank you and gratitude.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here.
Let's tell the people a little bit about you. So you're a midwife and maybe what that is, how long you've been doing it, things like that. Maybe the difference between a midwife and a doula.
Okay, yeah, so I am a midwife. I have been licensed since 2015, and I had a 5-year direct apprenticeship. So I entered through apprenticeship, took a national exam, sat for the state exam, and then have a license through the state and a national recognition of my midwifery status. So a midwifery is a synonym for OB, at least in the model that people would understand. They're your clinical practitioner. They will be there through your prenatal care, through your birth, through your postpartum care, and direct it clinically.
It's just different.
So a doula is just a support person, somebody who will hold your hand in labor, who maybe helps you process trauma if they're really good.
Okay.
But they have no clinical, they won't take your blood pressure. I mean, they might, but that doesn't mean anything. They haven't had clinical training of any kind.
So before birth was kind of hijacked and forced into these medical settings of hospitals and doctors and all of that, the midwife was really who took charge and led the birth.
Right. Midwives, they often say, are one of two of the oldest professions, which are prostitution and midwifery, which go hand in hand. Sex work. So it's traditionally been women, either probably passed down, the interested in the community would sit with the one who was doing it at the time. And I think most women had free births, so did not get prenatal care regularly. But when at the time of birth things got funky, weird, you wanted somebody, they would say, go get the midwife, and she'd show up for that. Right. And that to me would be a beautiful way for it to return, which would mean every woman and family felt sovereign enough to handle it until something they didn't feel comfortable, right? And then you'd bring in the wise woman who has seen it a time or two.
Right. So your approach is kind of really, it's woman mother led, and you're just the support in case, you really empower these women to feel safe to empower themselves.
Right.
Okay.
Ideally that would be.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
So we talked a little bit before we started recording about essentially how, we're gonna, this is a heavy topic, y'all. We're gonna spark this here ganja to talk about a little bit about how birth has been hijacked, weaponized, and
manipulated. Right?
Stolen, right?
Because
if you think about it, we've been around for how many thousands of years? We've been birthing babies, bitches birth babies. That's what we do, and we've been doing it.
And people's favorite answer to that are on the medical side, but they were dying. That's what they'll say.
Right. But
that's not actually true. I mean, that's a species wouldn't survive if they were mostly dying.
Right. Oh, that's true. We wouldn't be here if most women died in childbirth. Right. But that is the story that they tell you. I know myself, I would be, as much as, if I had a baby, I would want to have it at home. I would have to work through a lot of that fear of, you're constantly told how birth is scary. You can die in childbirth. The baby can die. If you have it at home, there's all these dangers and complications.
But let's reflect on what an awesome time to contemplate death. Right? That's also another part of our natural biology that's been hijacked and stolen from us, is our death, right? And how we die and where we go after we die and get buried, in our bodies and our families and all of that. I think because death and birth are the same portal, the same doorway, the same revolving door, I like to view it almost like a lazy river exit entrance ramp. And I'm the lifeguard standing there. Okay, oh, you need a tube.
Yeah. You need a tube.
But for women to sit with it, like,
hit the joint.
I one time attended a birth 6 weeks postpartum of my own baby. So I was in the postpartum portal. And this woman was laboring really close to the end. And she goes, I feel like I'm going to die. Which almost every woman at that point feels that way. Because what's about to happen is the baby's going to come through their vagina. And so that's like, maybe I'll die, right? That's a big feeling. Which as a midwife isn't encouraging. Like, you get there, I'm like, cool, yes.
Yes. You're almost at the birth death portal. Or you are at it.
But I happened to be 6 weeks postpartum, so really understood what she was meaning. And I said to her, that's because you are. Now, that might feel scary, right? Like, if I told a woman who was already in fear, that's because you are going to die, might not help her through that moment. But to have prepared your whole pregnancy with somebody who's going to then sit with you in those moments, and you might trust her and even believe her,
right.
You could then surrender to death, your own death, in a real way, that when you come back to life, when that baby's born, yes.
Yeah.
Like a karmic cycle was just broken, now you're a new woman, like.
Because you looked at death and brought
and
life.
said yes.
Yeah, you said yes. Yeah. So, I don't know if everyone watching knows a little bit about MK Ultra, but I loved what you had to say about MK Ultra. And just as a preface, MK Ultra is a CIA government program that they unleashed in the 50s?
Yeah, probably post World War II. But when they got the Nazi scientists, right? Like that's the ones who did this research that led to their knowledge of what they were doing. Right?
Yeah, which is Operation Paperclip. You can look it up on DuckDuckGo about the Nazi scientists. But so MK Ultra was a program where they induced trauma as a form of mind control, essentially.
Well, so MK Ultra's main agenda was, how do we control a mass population? How can we mind control mass populations? And so in their research, they understood that trauma was necessary. The only way to control someone's mind is to traumatize them, and deeply traumatize them. And that's what birth in a hospital does to a person.
But not even it starts at conception, because then, I don't know if a lot of people know that babies don't like ultrasounds.
No, and it hasn't been studied, and what has been studied shows that it's not necessarily safe. So when your doctor says it's safe and effective, that's a lie, first of all. Second of all, it hasn't been studied enough to even make that claim. And what the studies do show that they have show that, yeah, there's effects, and we don't know what they are. They used to x-ray babies in moms. X-ray.
Wow. And now, that would be, you can't get x-rays if you're pregnant now, obviously, we all know. But
so, yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
You go.
I was just going to say, I've heard of babies and ultrasounds of people that I know, literally covering their ears. And if you think about, they say don't even tap on a fish tank because it can hurt the fish's ears. So just think about this little thing growing inside of you is getting, ultrasounds there's ultrasound. It's that you're forcing sound on that it's probably being tapped on the water. I don't know.
I know, and I think this ultrasound topic can be triggering for women because, man, it's tempting to look inside, right? What if you could just see if everything's okay?
Yeah.
I had a baby, my third, after a traumatizing second birth experience in a hospital. I was having a home birth with my third, and he insisted, and I only know this in retrospect, but very strongly I knew I was not getting any ultrasounds that pregnancy. And now I know it was him insisting I didn't get any ultrasounds. And that kind of became how I deal with my body in pregnancy, and so don't get ultrasounds. Well, that was my third, and I have 5. So by baby number 4, my kids figured out there was a machine that you could look. And they're like, "Why didn't you do that? Why we should do that?" And I was like, "Oh no, we're not. Sorry."
Yeah.
But I do understand that wanting to look, or the I just can't wait to know the gender or whatever. I want you to know true informed consent and true autonomous birth is you making your own choices. And if that's what you want, you should do that. But if no one's telling you that there's risks involved, or potential risks that we don't know about, or even it could lead to worse outcomes in your birth because we looked so much and we've decided there's a problem now, if you knew all those things, would you still say, I need to know what its genitals look like right now?
Right.
Would you?
Right. Or like, would you get as many? Because, everyone, that's true, and I like
Can I also give like a secret side note is also the reason they offer so many ultrasounds is because insurances pay well for them. So birth itself, like the birth package is nothing. They paid like $3,000 per birth to the people, which is nothing. But if you bill for an ultrasound, they'll pay you $1,000 each pop. How many you think, if you have good insurance, how many ultrasounds you think you're going to need?
Well,
if your doctor was in charge.
1 a month.
Yeah, or more.
Or more, yeah. So that's really where they make their money. And I mean...
It's a corporation. It is. Birth outside, birth anywhere else but the home is a corporation.
Right. Well, and in my opinion, often it's tied. So
sorry, I put that out. But
that's okay. Put it out, yeah.
Okay.
Did you put it out, though? Because it's still smoking. It's usually tied together. Like, they have to use money as a motivation to get you to do the traumatic or whatever thing that they want you to do. That's why CoCo deaths you were paid for putting that on the death certificate. They have to use that as an incentive to get you to do these fucked up things.
Right, I see.
I mean,
to bring it back to MK Ultra, like it's a whole scam, right? Like it's all connected. But to traumatize a population,
right?
Why not start at birth? That's a great place to start. And it also then puts the matriarch or the mother of the household, the one who's, the temperature of what's going on and the one who's going to stop bad things from happening, is numb, gone. I mean, then they train you to not hold your baby that much, or to time their breastfeeding, or to put a hat on them, to put mittens on them, to like fully take them out of being a symbiotic mama-baby unit, so that you no longer have intuition anymore.
Right. And that's why you were saying before we recorded, like, the most important, like, you were like, Cal, if you got pregnant tomorrow, it'd be weird, it'd be Jesus. But after we got over the Immaculate Conception part of the pregnancy, you would tell me to get in touch with my intuition, because and just sit and listen to myself, because that's really where the power lies. And when you're doing that, that's how you knew with your third baby, I'm not doing this ultrasound thing, because you listened.
Right.
And then, so the MK Ultra basically is, the theory is that you came up with, or maybe you heard somewhere.
It was just a connecting of the dots. Because my own mission as a midwife, prior to knowing any conspiracies the government have been, whatever, doing to us forever, is I'm here to catch these babies, these new souls, these reincarnated beings, whoever they are, star seeds, aliens, I don't know. I met a sea turtle once. But to let them know that this is a safe place, because neurologically, biologically, your nervous system is set based on that moment, right? And it can get reset based on traumas and things as you move on. Your nervous system is wise, but the set point you get is the set point you get from the moment you're born, the moment you take your first breath, all the things that encompass that. How's your mama? How's she feeling? Did she just get you ripped out of her? Do they take you away and then decide to cut off part of your penis next?
Or cut the cord right away, clean you, put the stuff in your eyes? Do they give you a shot right away?
How many things can they traumatize you with right away?
And then it gets more, because even now with some of the shots they're trying to give babies are like Hep. shots about which are about
hepatitis
sex.
B. You can only get through intravenous drug use or
sexual
intercourse. Yeah.
And it only the shot
is given at the time of birth,
and it only lasts for like 5 years or something. The effects of the shot, so it's essentially pointless. But that's where it comes back to the MK Ultra, because it's if we can. And then we could.
Do you know why they even got that in? I mean, besides to poison little tiny humans, it was because the way they framed it is we can't trust women. We can't trust that they're not prostitutes or IV drug users, even though we've met them every day of their pregnancy and they showed up to birth here with us.
Wow.
They also will drug test you without your consent. I mean, they're treating you as if you're a big problem.
Right.
That they need to solve.
I was just thinking, a problem. And yeah, and it's traumatizing not only, you know, the baby in as many ways possible, so that's your set point is trauma. You're used to trauma. You accept trauma, and then, you know, your whole life is just.
Well, it's also like, what they learned in MK Ultra, like the actual studies, is that your brain will then shut part of its brain off. Take all that trauma it felt and compartmentalize it. So you're not a whole person. You're no longer a whole person, and every time a trauma happens, you become less of a whole person. You have some of yourself locked away as a really wise body response to help you survive this.
Right.
So birth and death, that portal is a really cool, or the lazy river entrance, you get to like wash away, right? It's a karma reset. You do get to die and come back, right?
Yeah.
And so you get to become whole again.
Right.
And they're taking that away from people and compartmentalizing them further.
Right.
And that's insidious. And if any woman who's birthed in the hospital, whether they claim to have loved it or not, knows what I'm saying.
Right. And the thing too is that by we essentially take the power away from these women and put it in the hands of doctors who aren't in their body. When your body knows how to birth this baby, you know how to birth this baby. We've been doing it for thousands of years. And how empowered is a woman who birthed her fucking baby at her home?
Into her own hands, potentially.
Like, damn. They don't want women who have done that. I have goosebumps all over my whole body, because that is like...
That's it. You take it back with a baby who then is sovereign too.
Yes. Because then that baby is brought in an environment where their mom's there. This is... And they're dirty and bloody and whatever, but it's beautiful and not traumatic.
I mean, there's trauma in all the ways. There could be trauma. But... It is the chance. It is the chance to be made whole again.
Right.
And you can fully embrace it with the right care providers, with the right self-reflection, with the right, I'm sorry, whoever's listening and needs to hear this, and if it's hard to hear, and it might be you, Calla, but most women that I see in my little pocket of Phoenix, Arizona, 99.9% of the women have either have a sexual trauma history or a eating disorder history, body dysmorphia. Was that how you said it?
Dysmorphia, yeah.
Let's trigger the fuck out of these women by getting them pregnant, right? Their whole body's gonna change, and then they're gonna have to let something through their vagina. What?
I don't mean to laugh, but it's...
No, that's a lot of triggers.
Yeah.
That's a lot of triggers.
Right.
So if your care provider pays no attention, first of all, their billable allowable time with you is 7 minutes. They're not going to find out you have
7 minutes.
That's all the insurance will pay them for. You're probably lucky if you get 7.
Wow.
So
they're not going to know.
Mm-mm.
And it's not a holistic approach anyway. They wouldn't even think to ask. Most of them.
I mean, it is probably on their intake form, but that red flags you. Red flag, she's going to need epidural. Right? Yeah, because I'm going to numb that shit out if I'm going to have pass a baby through. I'm not going to get re-triggered every time a baby hits that part of my pelvis that whatever happened when I was 6 happened.
Right.
But imagine if you had somebody was walking you through with it and reminding you, no, that's your baby's head.
Yeah.
That's safe.
Yeah.
That's your baby's head. That's safe. What does it reprogram at that spot? What if sex after that with your partner who you've been trying to open up to but can't because there's that one spot, now is gone, fixed,
right.
healed, or at least open.
Yeah. Open to be healed or
Yeah.
processed or felt, and just seen, and to be seen by someone in that and just held. That alone is healing.
Mm-hmm. Presence,
Yeah, the presence of it. Wow.
The witnessing, to be witnessed through a hard thing is something.
Yeah. So when you do a home birth, you mentioned epidurals, is that you don't do... I figured, but I just wanted to... I knew, but I wanted you to know for the people. Tell me your thoughts on epidurals or...
I believe in the compassionate use of pain medication.
Okay.
So, I had an epidural. It was my first. I was 21 when it got hard. I was fine, and I was sitting on a ball. They wanted me to get in bed, and all of a sudden the next contraction fucking killed me. Yeah. And I was like, give me the fucking epidural. Right, if I would have stayed on the ball, I probably could have managed longer, at least. Whatever. I got the meds. I also, labored inside my own head and body. I was not present to the outside world while I was laboring. He came out really easily. It was pain-free because I had an epidural, and my first thought was, wow, that was the most amazing thing I'll ever do, and I missed it. I missed it. So after that was on a quest to not miss my life's experiences.
What is it? The thought of pushing a baby out of my vagina scares the living fuck out of me, especially because I've been traumatized by my mom's birth story, because she was traumatized, and then they tell you that you're damned to your mom's birth story. And my mom was
a big deal, and part of my homework as your midwife is find out your birth story.
Woo! My mom was in labor for 36 hours, forceps on her vagina. She said the doctor literally put his foot on the table with a cup on my head, yanked me out. I had a cone head. They thought I was going to be dumb my whole life.
You're like, how else will they know I'm an alien if I don't come out with a cone head?
I was also straight chilling. I feel like a part of me was like, I don't want to go.
Let me give you some perspective. The reason your mother's birth of you matters is because it's your birth. Imagine your birth is your baby's, not yours, right?
Right. That's true.
So the reason it matters is because every cell in your body was there when it happened, and it remembers, whether it's in a compartment or not. Mm-hmm. So if in your body, in your bones, in your cellular energetic makeup, remembers what birth is like. Yeah, that was your set point, girl. It's really fucking scary here. But we could reframe it, right? And you do know your body works, right? And your body has wisdom. And luckily the human coming through is going to have that too. Right?
Yeah.
And so it becomes a dance. It becomes a working with your body of and your baby. Do we know how to do this? We do. It is safe to do this, right?
Yeah.
But that continues from contraction to contraction sometimes. But yeah, it's a big feeling to have a head in your vagina.
Yeah, so tell me about, so you missed the experience the first time, and then...
So then my daughter's, which was my second birth, was... also, it was traumatic. It was my most traumatic to that point. I've had more traumatic experiences. But I hired a birth center. I was going to do it all naturally. The birth center sent me a letter at 36 weeks, which is right at the end. You go to 40. We're closing our doors. You have to birth at the hospital with our docs, not our midwives. And I was like... So I make it to 42 weeks, which is the deadline, right? You no longer can be pregnant past this point. I went to my doctor appointment. He told me I was 5 centimeters, which is almost halfway. We could just break your waters and you could have your baby today. And I was like, fuck yeah, no way, I'm not doing that. But then by 9 o'clock that night, I was like, if he just broke my waters, I could have my baby tonight. And so the healing from that birth was the acknowledgement of I walked into the hospital that day, right? I did with my 2 feet, walked into the hospital and allowed whatever went on beyond those doors to go on because I walked into the doors, right? And that was a choice. Nobody was forcing me to do that.
Right.
Which is something you should know is that they're not in charge of you. You hire them and can fire them. But it just, I gave my power away. It turned out traumatizing and feeling like I gave my power away. At the end, I had to yell something like, I heard him open scissors as I was pushing her out, and I said, "Do not cut me." And he like laughed in my face and was like, "I wasn't going to." And it's just like, you know, a lot of like little undermining things that propelled us to never again choose that.
Right. But okay. Yeah. I like how you said you do have a choice, and it is a choice to walk in there, because I think, again, we're taught and it's bombarded, it's like instilled in us that you have to have your baby in a hospital. The safest place to have your baby is in a hospital. Come to the hospital. And
so did you know, in the European model of healthcare, every pregnant woman only sees a midwife until it gets complicated. So you're not even considered for an OB hospital birth until you show signs of something being complicated.
So because for example, I remember we talked about this before, like, you sometimes do have to refer your mothers to the hospital, like for example, you're not allowed to birth a baby breech at home. You can. But if you know didn't you say if you know?
Yes, that was when I had a breech baby at home. It was illegal. We had a rule change for the Arizona midwives after that now allows home births of certain types of breeches and VBACs.
Oh, what are VBACs?
Vaginal birth after a cesarean section.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. You used to not be able to birth at home if you had a C-section the first time? Whoa.
Well, you can. You've always been allowed. The birthing mother will not be prosecuted. It is not illegal for you to give birth wherever you want to give birth. It is legal for you to have an attendant who is qualified.
It's you. Yeah, it's your licensure.
Which it does infringe on your rights, right?
Right. Because if I want you there,
you couldn't have me.
Right.
And it was your right to have a safe home birth, right?
But I could still choose to lay in my bed and birth a baby. I could do it where I can go wherever I want and birth my fucking baby.
Well, probably like not public parks or something. I don't know those rules, but
no, this park, this slide. I'm having my baby on the slide.
I'm having a slide birth, all right?
Okay, but aside from my slide birth, there's pretty much okay, so thank you for that clarification too, because that's the whole point. Like, we are sovereign and empowered women, and we can do what we feel is best, and we just need to remember that, essentially.
Right.
So, okay,
so if a baby were going to come out of your vagina, luckily you have time to consider it, right, and prepare. And luckily it gets so irritating at the end to be pregnant that you're like, okay, if that's the way out, then I'm in.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that naturally goes into being ready, right?
Right.
But it also will come up. There's no way. You're an open vessel for the soul of another human being. And I have seen enough humans enter their bodies to know, and been pregnant enough to know that they're not currently in their body all the time 100%. I think they'd come in and check it out and leave. They might come and check it out as the butterfly who visited you your whole pregnancy and leave. You might have a cat visitor that shows up when you're pregnant and never comes again when you're not. It was probably your baby's soul seeing how your family runs, getting used to the situation. Okay, I know this is really far fucking out there, but
I believe it. You choose your parents.
They enter in at some point and then are there. You see them, right? That you see them get there, right?
Well, I don't see it.
Right, I have seen it a lot of different times. And so being that open vessel, the traditional Chinese medicine talks about birth as being a time when a great wind blew through the woman. And so they do a lot of like closing and warming things for the women. But it's a great wind that blows through you that you have to be open for.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the game is surrender and I think protection of yourself, right? Like, because you can take on so much, maybe you should hunker in a little more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And you, as the midwife, provide support throughout the whole process. So because I would imagine if I, when I put I've never had a baby or been pregnant, but when I put myself in that situation, I can imagine the excitement and also just like the, oh, fuck. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to have to push this thing out of my vagina.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But then you're going to have to, like, raise them.
Yeah, well, that too. The whole thing really is like, whoa, a lot. But I'm just like, so how do you prepare for the pain? Breath?
Yeah, I think it is a lot of meditative work. I've taught a lot of birth classes. It's a lot like sex, right? Like it's a lot about preparing the space and stuff. Like you won't want people, it is sex. It's the grand culmination of the sex act, right? Like birthing a human. And so I used to start a birth class with the lights off and the husbands and the wives sitting together, and then I turn on a woman moaning in labor, and it sounds an awful like a sex video, and get them good and uncomfortable, right? But that's the thing. Do you want to have sex with your beloved in a hospital room while strangers are watching? I mean, it could get kinky, and you could get down with it, I bet, but like...
Right, that's a good way to think of it.
It is that. I mean, I would find myself often telling women who were at a birth center, they were laboring on the toilet, which is an awesome place to labor because it's a place you're used to opening up your bottom, right? Yeah. And they would be sitting on the toilet in my birth center, and I would just be thinking, man, you should really be sitting on your own toilet. That would feel really safe for you, right?
Yeah, because sometimes people can't poop in public.
Right, a lot of times, I bet.
Yeah.
So it's different. The pain level's different. The other thing I want to remind you, Kala, who's afraid of pushing your baby out of her vagina, is your body created the hormone cocktail that started all that labor. That is that powerful, painful presence that you're feeling. You created it. And your hormones, the good, feel-good oxytocin, dopamine, you get serotonin, you release DMT, you release all of that in the same measure so that you can get through it. Girl, it is the most wild psychedelic trip you'll ever go on. I'm not the only one who said this, but it is a trip to outer space to find your baby and bring him back with you.
Ooh.
That's what you're doing. And so, yes, you have to get out of your body's way. That's the only way, and that's surrender. And so a lot of it is getting out of your body's way, which you can practice meditating. I do, like if you want your partner really involved, I teach them eye gazing. Practice synchronized breathing or opposite breathing and eye gazing. Because the kind of presence it takes is all it takes. Right. Because what you need in this moment, in this contraction, will be different the next one. Right. But if you're present, there ain't no script. We got it. Yeah. We know what to do right now.
Yeah. Oh, and that's where the power is right now. And I guess, like, it makes me think of, the ayahuasca I've done, or combo, or those things where it's the same, like, it's awful and miserable, but you just, the curandero who we did the ayahuasca with was like, your body loves purging. It's your mind that doesn't want to purge. Like, your body is doing this and loving it. Like, just surrender and just walk up to your bucket and go, hello, bucket, blah, and just let it out. And I imagine that the more you practice surrendering in your everyday life and in those moments, the more you can just surrender in a extended now moment of giving birth.
And it will be a practice, and it will be the most challenging practice you've done. But why else are we here, man?
And then the power that comes after that, like we were saying, of like having done that, not only for yourself, but for your baby and for society, like unfuckwittable.
Well, and then the amount of oxytocin that's released at that part, like, woo! You fall in love with your husband again or your partner again. You fall in love with the midwife. I fall in love with you. Like, we're all like, I often remind women who like think they're in love with me, which is okay because I'm in love with them. But I will remind them like, yes, it's oxytocin. That's the love hormone. It's so lucky we get to do it.
That's so funny. It is probably unmatched. It's probably like like you said, the best or most unreal psychedelic trip of your life.
It really is.
I mean, yeah, I'm here for the experience. Like, I do want a baby. I surrender to spirit about what's to happen. You know, I'm not forcing it, but I know if I'm meant to have a baby, it will happen, and you'll be there.
You just gotta call me.
I will. Before, that was amazing. Thank you for all of that information. And I'm sure we could talk for hours, but one thing I do want to touch on, because it's super prevalent to the times, and I know it's important to a lot of people watching, is talking about being pregnant right now with the shot, the CoCo shot, and the possible shedding of excuse me.
So I've given this speech a couple times because it's relevant. It's my personal tiny little practice that I have has been affected potentially by this, right? And so it is a big deal. But first thing I want to remind everybody, and us included, is if you gathered up all the atoms, all the cellular material, right, all matter that makes us up, it would be less than the amount of space between those atoms, right? Because atoms don't touch each other unless we're blowing shit up. The space between all of the matter that we are is greater, exponentially greater than the matter we are. So you're mostly space. Doesn't that feel good? You're mostly space.
I got a little back crack out of that. My body was like, I remember.
So we're also, the only thing we're learning through quantum physics and quantum mechanics, like the pioneers in those areas are learning it's only frequency. That's it. That's all there is frequency, right? Well, cool. Now that we're mostly space, we understand how we feel frequency, right? It flows right through us because we're mostly space. Okay, got it?
Got it.
So, is this vaccine, are we allowed to say that?
No, don't say that word. Is this shot,
the jab, shedding spike proteins, collecting in ovaries, is all of that real? Is people's things changing? Yes. Is it like is it matter that is shedding and that's coming into our bodies and then is affecting the matter? Or is it the frequency that we're picking up on? That those people who are receiving this thing, or even the energetics of the thing itself, is it saying die, right? Like, not safe, we're gonna die soon, protect yourself, right? Like, that's what if a human got in and was like, let's tell others.
Yeah.
I have space for that to be real, right? Like, the energetics of that affecting you pregnant, yeah. Okay, so then I have physical evidence that things are happening that aren't common or never have been common in pregnancy, that they're acting like have always been a thing, like bleeding in the second trimester, microplacental abruption. They made that up. That's not that I know of. I mean, I've been in practice for a while and I haven't heard of this. But I've experienced it since.
Right. So just to like kind of back up for people, so a lot of the issue of what they're seeing is babies leaving or women miscarrying, or even, it's not even technically a miscarry because sometimes they have the baby alive, but it's happening in the second trimester.
And then even non-pregnant women are experiencing effects in their fertility or ovulation or even menstruating.
Right. But the thing about the second trimester that you had told me previously that really stuck with me is you explained, like, in your experience and from what you know, even like the medical, like, common knowledge was that babies don't dip out in the second trimester.
No, that's the one you float, you sail through. There's not like the warning signs. Like, yes, we talk about bleeding at the end, like in the third trimester, cramping, bleeding, leaking fluids, that like we would want to know about preterm labor and stuff. In the second, it's so rare that that's not like on top of our list of things to remind you about. At this, it's like this is the time where you get to enjoy being pregnant.
Right, because if you think about it, it makes sense because the first is like, you know, it's new, things are just aligning, your body's changing, your body has to react and do all these things, and then you kind of get in a place where you're like, all right, we did that, like now baby's chilling, and I'm not a fucking doctor, so I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong in any of this, but like then the baby's kind of chilling, and then the baby grows and gets bigger, and that's when like the placenta may come off because the baby's so big and the foot, you know,
and that's not how it works. But yeah, like that's when things could.
It just makes more sense that the further you get along, the closer you get to birth, the more complications you're going to have because
Precisely.
That's true in anything in life, really, essentially. So,
but I do want to reiterate with all of that, knowing where frequency is the most, like, that frequency is all that exists, and that where mostly space is the most important, because what I've seen more than bleeding, more than miscarriages, more than physical signs is the fear affecting women through birth. And we can't be you can't be afraid in this space.
no.
And it affects your birth if you are. And I know it's a scary thing we're doing, but if your whole pregnancy you've been in fear of a disease or of a
shot or whatever, then the fear closes your body. You're not open when you're fearful. So that would make sense. You need your body to be open to birth. So would you, I mean, so, okay.
It doesn't make unsuccessful home births either. We get through it.
Right.
It just makes for a harder, longer.
Right. So would your recommendation, or I guess like if you were pregnant right now, would you, do you think women need to be cautious of being around people who have received the shot, or do you think it's like purely energy? Like if you're not afraid of being around people who've had the shot, that then it doesn't affect you, or, you know, like, where's the balance?
I don't know, but I do feel like it is mostly frequency. I do feel like, I mean, it's kind of being proven that it is. Like if you look up this quantum mechanics and quantum scientists, what they're studying currently is that it's only frequency.
Right.
So yeah, I think there's the component. Do I also think there's like a depopulation agenda that we should be mindful of?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we do think that.
So it's a balance. Like if everyone in your circle is jabbed, find a fucking new circle. I mean, sorry.
Yeah, it's hard. And I mean, it's hard with family. I get it, you know. But I think the takeaway for me too is like sometimes you have to do what you have to do. You can't, like, if everyone needs to do what's right for them, obviously. So if you're feeling called to not be around people who have received the jab, then do that, but don't give it too much power. I was just thinking power, and your bracelet says power. But, you know, just do it from a place of love and detachment rather than like, what if I go to the grocery store? And, you know, you can't, we have to
so like
alchemize.
if you ask those what if questions, the universe likes to answer them.
Yeah.
I keep hearing people saying,
That's
like, how could this day get any worse? People like to ask that. And it's like, well, that would be a fun question to answer if you were the universe. I could show you like 16 different ways it could get worse.
Infinite, really.
Yeah, I'm real imaginative. So if you ask those open-ended what if really scared questions, the universe would like to show you that. Because it takes you seriously. You don't take you as seriously as you need to. I mean, we were lightening up here, but...
I know what you mean. But yeah, but the seriousness of the fact that we are the ultimate infinite creators of our... We're the same energy. It's all frequency, and we're the same frequency as
And
creation.
I need more women knowing that. You know, like, I'm in for women taking their power back. Like, hell yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
And it's rare you see a woman go backwards after she gave birth on her own, in her own home, and with her own hands, you know?
Yeah, yeah. That's true. I realized that I forgot the cards, but but anyway, before we even get there, I got ahead of myself. This was a amazing conversation.
Yeah,
do you feel that the people need to know, like, do you have anything else you want to say to the people about birth or sovereignty or freedom, whatever?
Just allow yourself to feel the love that you are. That's it. Like 5 seconds a day. If you can.
I love you.
I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want Rachel to help you birth a baby, she can be found on Instagram at Mystic Mothers.
That's my midwifery page.
Midwifery page.
Rachel83 is my personal one. I don't really participate as well as people think I probably should. But
Should.
But I will hit you up if you hit me up.
So. Yeah, if you have questions, you can contact her that way, but don't expect to go on there and see a bunch of
birth photos or anything. It's really just me like flipping off Instagram.
But you can DM her, so she does get back very quick. But I'm going to pause this, go get some cards, and then we'll see what message you have to share with the collective today, okay?
Okay.
Yay. All right, we're back with the Rachel. You went for the moon.
Yeah, but I'm going to look at... Ooh, this one will be fun, because this is...
Okay, we're doing a couple.
Our, probably the last time we were best friends was when we lived in Lemuria.
That's true.
Okay. Your decks are so much nicer than mine.
Let me just see some of my older ones.
Okay, that's great. This is perfect. Look at that. So it's time to release negative energy, and you or your loved ones are safe. I think this is just a reiteration of like, hey, Rachel, what Rachel's saying is true. It is actually just about, not holding on to fear.
Yeah. It's time to release negativity. I don't think you can see that, but...
And you and your loved ones are safe.
You and your loved ones are safe. That is, I agree. It's saying, don't even worry about that shit. Even, if your loved one got the shot, like, let it go. It's all good.
Mm-hmm. It is actually. Whew, and express your truth. That's the one that wants us. The throat chakra.
Express your truth.
Ooh.
Thank you for expressing your truth.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you putting yourself out there. I know it's a lot to be out here being like MK Ultra, but we did it, and I love you.
I love you.
Whew, it's Kala again, and I know that was a lot of information, a lot to digest, and a lot of information you may or may not have known before. I know some of you are going to be super aligned with that information, and others of you may think it's crazy, some of the things we said, but either way, no matter how you feel about this information, your perspective is welcome here, and it is equally as valid. The true definition of sovereignty is deciding what is best for us. There's no one truth or one right way to do things, and that's really the beauty of this human experience. So I just want to thank Rachel again one more time for taking the time out of her day to come sit down with me, for speaking her truth and showing up authentically and shining light on this topic. I learned so much from her in this episode, and really just in life. She's one of the smartest people I know, so I really am honored that she took the time to sit down with me. I want to thank you, Rachel. And I also just want to add that nothing in this podcast or this episode is ever medical advice or legal advice or any sort of advice. This podcast is really just for entertainment purposes only, and for people to consider different perspectives that are out there, to shed light on different things, different perspective, different, just the diversity of this world. So as with anything, in any major decision that you have to make, whether it be for yourself or your family, I would encourage you to seek professional advice or counsel, whether that be medically, legally, professional advice. Please seek the proper individuals. And I will add that most importantly, to listen to your intuition. You truly know what is best for you. You are the doctor, you are the lawyer, you are the teacher, you are the guru, you are everything. So make sure that even when consulting with those professionals, that you listen to your intuition and yourself first and foremost, because you do know what's best for you. So I want to thank you again so much for being here. I hope that you got something out of this. I love all of you so much. I am so grateful for this opportunity to just anchor more light into this planet, and I thank you so much for being a part of it. May this podcast and these lessons and whatever else shed some light in your life, and may you carry that with you through the rest of your week. I love you.
fast J's, a face of blunt ashtrays, and skate with punk kids. I still chase the sun bad days. I'm lacing up half cabs and shake junk spliffs. Whatever happened to rapping should rest in peace to Mac, and I'm here to raise it from the dead. Cause drugs ain't cool, kid, plug you with that new shit. Turn water to wine and break bread. And if I said this all the future, would you trust I told the truth, or would you run away and tell my whole fan base? Cause sooner or later, kid, they'll take your human nature and they'll burn you at the stakes while the band plays. So, in the last words, better speak up now. I said, why do birds sing? What's a king without a crown? They all stood in silence while they listened to the sound of a madman reason with the demons he found. You can't lock up ideas, we don't even exist. I just live through the speakers and the beats that we kick. Is this forbidden fruit from the Garden of Eden? Is it freedom of speech, or am I speaking for freedom?